Tasha had only just started working as a maid, barely noticeable and not fully trusted. But everything changed when she found the billionaire's daughter, barely breathing, alone in the mansion with no one else around. The staff were nowhere in sight, and the mansion was eerily silent. Panic took over when she couldn't get a call through, and no help was coming. In a moment of desperation, she broke into the billionaire's office, took the car keys, grabbed a stack of cash, and fled with the girl. Alarms went off just minutes later. Security tracked her to the hospital, cornered her, and arrested her. However, a conversation between the doctor and Gregory left the billionaire frozen in shock, and what followed stunned everyone. Before we continue, if this is your first time watching, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more compelling stories. Stick with us until the end, and if this story moves you, leave your thoughts in the comments and share it with a friend. Let's begin. Tasha Briggs didn't make a dramatic entrance into the Lancaster mansion. She arrived quietly, like a soft knock on the back door that went unanswered. She had been hired 3 days earlier, and no one bothered to ask why her shoes were tied so tightly, or why her knuckles were cracked. She was given a mop and a small bedroom designated for the staff, and that was it. The Lancaster estate, a grand fortress of white pillars and glass walls nestled in the hills, wasn't just about keeping danger out. It also kept stories like hers from being seen. Gregory Lancaster, the billionaire who owned everything, rarely spoke to the staff unless they were handling something valuable or breaking something important. He was a tech mogul, a stock trader across 5 countries, and lived as if emotions were a weakness. His world wasn't cold but carefully controlled. Then there was Vivian, his 10-year-old daughter, fragile as spun glass but suffering from sickle cell disease. She didn't speak much, not to the chefs, the chauffeurs, or even her father. Most days, she stayed upstairs in the sunroom, wrapped in soft sweaters, in complete silence. Tasha noticed all of this, of course. Vivian's footsteps were barely audible, and her smiles were fleeting, cracking like dry paint. But no one else seemed to notice. They made sure her medication was topped up, the rooms were dusted, and her food was warm. That was enough. Tasha wasn't supposed to ask questions, but they kept whispering in her mind. Why had the nurse left early the previous night? Why had the girl been trembling in the hallway near the bathroom? Why did no one seem to care? On her 4th morning, Tasha carried breakfast upstairs. She knocked on Vivian's door, but there was no answer. She opened the door slowly and froze. Vivian was lying on the floor, not unconscious, but curled up with her hands tucked under her, as if she were hugging herself. Her breathing was slow. Tasha set the tray down and sat beside her, silently. After a long pause, Vivian whispered, "It hurts today." Tasha nodded. That moment didn't change the world, but something shifted. Something soft and invisible. Downstairs, 2 older maids whispered as they folded towels. One said, "I give her a week, she's too soft for this place." The other responded, "She's got that look, like she's seen struggle. And struggle doesn't last long around here." They both chuckled and looked up, but Tasha silently passed behind them, hearing every word. Later that evening, the mansion glowed under golden light. Gregory arrived home late, and as expected, Vivian didn't greet him. He didn't expect her to. Tasha was cleaning the upstairs study, glancing at the locked office door at the far end of the hallway. The security sensors above blinked. It was off limits to staff, but Tasha could hear a ticking sound from inside. Perhaps it was just the clock or perhaps the ticking of time itself. The next morning was heavy, with dark storm clouds hanging low. Gregory had left early for a business trip, and Tasha moved through her routine like clockwork, but something felt off. Vivian hadn't come down for breakfast. By 9 a.m., the head maid was already complaining about detergent, and by 10, the other staff were focused on prepping for a dinner event next week. But no one mentioned Vivian. Tasha hesitated outside her room, feeling an unusual tug in her chest. She knocked twice and opened the door. Vivian was lying halfway off the bed, drenched in sweat, her hands shaking and her lips dry. Her body was contorted unnaturally, as if it were fighting itself. The room smelled sharp like plastic and fear. Tasha dropped to her knees beside the girl. Vivian's eyes fluttered open, and her breath was ragged. Tasha's own hands trembled as she reached for the emergency call button on the wall. But when she dialed the nurse's number, it went straight to voicemail. Gregory's number rang, but there was no answer. She tried again and again, but still nothing. Downstairs, the maids were laughing near the pantry. Tasha burst out into the hallway, frantic. "I need someone, anyone," she cried. One maid, not even looking up, said, "We don't go upstairs without clearance." "She needs a hospital now," Tasha insisted. The second maid waved her off, saying, "We'll inform the estate manager. That's the process." Tasha's frustration boiled over. She turned and sprinted back upstairs. Vivian's condition was worsening, her breathing too fast and shallow. Tasha glanced at the locked office door. She had never been inside, but she had noticed a small keyhole above the doorknob, and a key always hanging from a red tag by the cleaning supplies. She remembered it because the tag said "Do not remove," but she did. Without hesitation, she grabbed the key and ran back upstairs. The office door clicked open, revealing a room full of silence. Leather furniture, framed awards, a wall safe, and a Tesla key fob on the desk. Beside it was a black clip filled with cash. She didn't think long. She grabbed Vivian and rushed out of the room. Every corner of the mansion seemed to scream at her. Cameras, blinking lights, invisible rules. But she didn't care. She bolted through the front door, cradling Vivian like fragile glass, and made her way to the garage. The Tesla recognized the key instantly, and the doors opened. She laid Vivian gently in the passenger seat, fastened her seatbelt, and whispered, "Hold on." Then she climbed in, slammed the door, and hit the accelerator. The tires squealed as she drove off. Back at the mansion, alarms blared. Security screens flashed red, an office breach, a missing vehicle. Inside the car, Tasha's hands gripped the wheel tightly, her breath shallow. Vivian's head lolled back, her skin now pale. The GPS blinked, but Tasha ignored it. She knew the best hospital, and she was headed there. The traffic blurred, horns blared, but Tasha's heart pounded louder than the road beneath her. She whispered to herself, "Hold on. Just hold on." Behind her, two black SUVs were already on their way. Security had tracked the car's location, but Tasha had no idea they were coming. The hospital entrance appeared in front of her, bright and sterile. The Tesla screeched to a halt. Without waiting, Tasha jumped out, yanked open the door, unbuckled Vivian, and carried her inside, feeling as if she were dragging a mountain with every step. "Help!" she gasped, bursting through the sliding doors. "Please, someone help!" she cried. The girl was suffering from sickle cell and could barely breathe. Nurses rushed to her side, a crash cart in tow. Vivian was carefully placed on a gurney, her body unnaturally still. The doctors barked out orders. Someone asked, "Are you her parent or guardian?" She replied, "I'm just the maid. Just the maid." But there was no one else. They didn't press further. They quickly wheeled Vivian away, and in that moment, everything went silent. Tasha stood frozen in the middle of the blindingly bright lobby, the weight of everything crashing down on her. She wasn't meant to be there. She wasn't meant to drive, handle the money, or even matter. But none of those rules had helped Vivian. And now, that realization hit her hard. Outside, tires screeched as two black SUVs pulled up in front of the hospital. Security personnel, clad in navy jackets with radios, poured out. They didn't shout, didn't ask questions. One guard pointed, "That's her." Tasha didn't run or flinch. She just turned slowly to face them as they surrounded her. In an instant, her wrists were cuffed. A nurse inside the sliding door shouted, "What are you doing?" One of the guards responded coldly, "She stole a billionaire's car and cash. She's under arrest." Gregory Lancaster arrived 15 minutes later, dressed in a gray suit with sleeves rolled up and cold eyes. He walked into the hospital as though he owned it, because in some ways he probably did. The head of security approached him. "She's in holding. The local PD is on their way. We've recovered the car. Still counting the cash." Gregory's jaw tightened. "And your daughter's still stabilizing." "Barely made it in time," the security officer added. Gregory didn't respond, just stood still with his hands in his pockets. A doctor, calm yet firm, walked up to him. "You Gregory Lancaster?" she asked. He nodded. The doctor let out a sigh. "Mr. Lancaster, your daughter has sickle cell. When a crisis strikes, Every second counts. If that young woman hadn't brought her here when she did. She paused. Your daughter would have died. That word echoed through the room like an unwanted shadow. Gregory blinked twice, processing. Your phones were off, your staff unreachable, your security was too slow. That girl saved her, not you. Not your systems. Her. With that, the doctor walked away, leaving Gregory standing in the cold hallway, staring at the floor. Tasha sat in a holding room, her hands still cuffed, shoulders tight, sweat drying on her neck. She didn't cry, didn't plead, just stared at the wall. The door opened, and she turned slowly. Gregory entered alone, no guards, no lawyers, and for the first time, he looked at her. Really looked at her. She met his gaze, her eyes red but unafraid. They stood in silence for a long moment. Then Gregory reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver key, unlocking her cuffs. Without a word he said, "Come with me." She hesitated, but then he added, "She's asking for you." The hallway to room 214 was eerily quiet. Gregory walked ahead, and Tasha followed, her footsteps unsure, as if the floor might disappear beneath her. Inside the room, Vivian lay under a soft blue blanket, IVs in place. Her breathing had steadied, and her small fingers tapped rhythmically against the blanket. When she saw Tasha, her face briefly lit up. "Tasha," she whispered, her voice filled with nothing but trust. Tasha gently took her hand. Gregory stood back, silently watching. Later that evening, as the sky turned pink and city lights flickered on, Gregory left the hospital room, no longer a billionaire, but a father filled with guilt. He had finally seen someone else step up when he couldn't. By morning, the internet buzzed with the story, though distorted. Black maid arrested for stealing billionaire's car. Possible kidnapping. Daughter in critical condition. The truth didn't matter to anyone. Assumptions were all they needed. By noon, an unexpected press release came from Gregory Lancaster's office. He would be making a public statement that evening. That night, reporters crowded outside his mansion, cameras flashing as the gates opened. Gregory stood behind the podium. No assistant, no tie, just him, with Tasha beside him in a simple gray dress, looking calm but nervous. Gregory took a deep breath and spoke. "Last night, my daughter almost died. And the only reason she's alive today is because of the woman standing next to me. She broke the rules, yes, but sometimes the rules are the problem. No one else acted, no one else cared the way she did. Tasha Briggs did what I couldn't. And the world needs to know her name." The crowd murmured. Gregory continued. "Effective immediately, Tasha will not only remain in my household, but she will never work as a maid again. I've created a trust in her name, and she will lead our family's medical outreach foundation." Tasha turned toward him, stunned. He wasn't finished. "If we're going to build systems to protect children like my daughter, they need to be led by people who act, not just speak." Inside the mansion that night, whispers had changed. "She's staying." "No, she's running things now." Tasha smiled, not out of spite, but because for the first time in her life, she wasn't walking on eggshells. She was walking on solid ground. Vivian recovered slowly, but each week, she grew stronger, her laughter echoing through the same walls that once tried to silence the girl who saved her. Tasha was no longer just a maid. She was the woman who rewrote the rules, and the billionaire who once overlooked her was the first to stand beside her when the world finally saw her. Sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who show up when it matters most. Tasha wasn't just a maid. She was the reason a little girl got a second chance at life. The next time you're tempted to judge someone by their position, remember what Tasha risked and what she became. If this story moved you, share it. Real heroes act without waiting for permission. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories.